Because that's certainly what's being talked about in a lot of corners of the Capitol. And I'm trying to be, obviously things are told to me in confidence as well, but we're trying to be fully transparent about what's going on at the Capitol. There's certainly a lot of conversation related to this issue. And whether we should have a license and be able to have medical marijuana and recreational marijuana sold at the same location as long as it's all tracked. And I think that there's a strong interest in that, frankly, in the Capitol. So,
Gene?
Yes.
Gene, a repeat offender here.
Okay. Now you remember that we're not supposed to repeat callers.
I have a clarifying question. Rob, if I'm growing with a 91 license, why shouldn't I be able to take care of patients as well? And if I'm taking care of patients as well and complying with the Medical Marijuana Act, why couldn't I distribute to a co-licensed dispensary?
Why shouldn't you be able to have both? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm asking if I'm cultivating, if I have a 91 license and I'm cultivating and I want to also care for patients, which is what growers under the medical marijuana program do. They cultivate for patients. And I'm complying with the Medical Marijuana Act with those limits and everything, and I'm complying with 91, why shouldn't I be able to distribute to a co-licensed retail outlet? That's the part that's confusing to me.
Well, what we're saying is we don't believe that they can be co-located at the same location to have unregulated grows, which is what it is. It's unregulated grows except for card stacking. Except for card stacking, there's no regulation about the amount, what's being tracked in the system. We feel like it has to be tracked in the system. That's what we would advise by council. That's what I was asking the Senator about the motion. I don't want to spend a lot of time here.
Okay, let's take a couple more and then go from there.
Can you clarify, you said not co-located for retail, but also you're not going to allow co-location for growers or production facilities. So if I have a production facility, I would not be allowed to run product for the recreational market and run medical products.
Correct.
Unless you did the seed to sale for the entire thing.
Unless you did the seed to sale for the entire system, we would not co-locate you.
Okay, so for example, I'm an extraction company, and I have patients I've been serving for a long time creating extractions for them. If I wanted to also work in the recreational market, I would have to have 2 different facilities in order to do that under the recommendations you've given to the legislative.
Correct.
Okay. If
your medical growers opted into a medical, that's why I left it open. If your medical growers opted into a seed to sale tracking kind of system, then you could do both at one facility.
But they would all have to be, and I couldn't have other patients that maybe I don't grow for, but they say, hey, I can't produce this extract, can I bring you my product and produce that extract strictly on the medical side, and I'm not even going to be giving it to a dispensary, I give it back to them. So this is kind of some of the, how do we clarify these 2 fields, and how do we keep track? Because I know there are a lot of people that are trying to plan for businesses, but not wanting to also mean that their patients that they've been serving for a long time are suddenly left out in the cold if they're going to actually use this knowledge that they've created to also now operate a legal recreational business.
We understand.
Gene, right here.
Okay.
I've been very actively involved in the medical community for a long time. And the problem with going seed to sale is you're going to take all of these medical patients, and the majority are on a fixed income right now. They're not going to be able to afford the cost for their medicine if you do take it through seed to sale. And that's going to be the biggest problem with it. And that's the problem that I hear in the community right now with all of these people. And it's not fair to those people that depend on that. You know, you're looking at it to generate tax revenue and to make money for the community, but you're not looking at the people that it really does help. And that's a big issue in our community.
We're not saying that tax on the medical side of things, they were to come under a seed to sale tracking system.
So if it does, there's no way to avoid that the price is going to increase. There is no way to avoid that. You are going to tax, the growers are still going to get taxed at that. It's going to get taxed, maybe not at the same level, but it is going to get taxed. And right now, I have patients right now, you know, I give away so much medicine for free every month to people that get screwed by their growers, that can't afford to go out and buy medicine. I had a guy approach me off of Craigslist recently, told me he is in desperate need. He's a veteran and he was injured in a war, and he can't afford his medicine. Could I help him out? He promises someday he'll return the favor. Now, how do you take someone like that who right now can't even afford to get his meds right now, and you want to take and increase the prices so that the state can make their tax money, which I agree on the recreational side, but you need to look at the medical side a lot more than you people are, because right now you're going to affect a lot of people that really need it, not recreationally, but need it medically.
Thank you. Clarification here, you guys, that what he's talking about is a recommendation about recreational marijuana, and that if it were to blend with medical marijuana, that's what they would ask for. It's not legislated yet, and you can talk to your legislator, Earl, if you're here. No, what am I saying? State legislator. You can talk to your state legislator, but also remember that they're not affecting the medical marijuana.
Just realize the medical marijuana system is in place as it currently is.
They are not asking
All
to
I was
end
giving
that.
you is an option potentially to have more accessibility to medical patients through OLCC licensing.
Okay, so we're going to go to the next question now, you
Excuse me
guys.
for 1 second. Can I
No,
say one
I'm
more
sorry.
thing?
Really, it's not fair to the other people who haven't had a chance to
But it's a
talk.
comment that he just made that needs to be addressed. He said the medical marijuana isn't being affected. Yes, it is, because all the dispensaries right now are medical only. Once you change the laws, they're not going to be medical only. So yes, you are affecting the medical community, so you can't make that statement.
Well, I guess let's move to the next question. So I'm going to go to the next question now, you guys. And I get, you guys, we could cover this one all night, and there are so many questions. We're going to have an open mic session soon, and you are welcome to bring this issue back, and I expect you will, because we know it's a tough one. So the next one is, should workers at marijuana-related businesses be licensed as they are for alcohol businesses? Should workers, so green, yes, they should be licensed as they are for alcohol businesses, or red. I see a lot of red over here, more greens here, more reds and yellows and some greens, more mixed here. So Nathan, grab one of the folks, how about right there? A couple, she says no, she doesn't want to. This is what John does. So yes, go ahead.
Can you repeat the question again?
Okay, so should workers at marijuana-related businesses be licensed as they are for alcohol businesses? And this is recreational retail, not, so, and it's about education, you know, like a food handler's permit kind of thing. Go ahead.
I would really enjoy to have somebody that's educated to serve me as a bartender, or knows the product and knows what they're serving and is educated.
Okay.
And I think it will help the community to be educated as well, because as a bartender educating a consumer using a product, using medicine, recreational marijuana, they will be able to explain to the community what, you know, how they've been educated, what the medicine can do in recreation, instead of having someone that doesn't know what they're doing.
So we've heard a lot about education, and what you're talking about is the bartender can then, if he's or she is educated, can pass that education on.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so other perceptions. Go ahead, Red.
I don't think the intent of the OLCC in this question is to provide the type of information that consumers want. And I think if it's a retail establishment, it's not a bar, they're not serving, they are simply dispensing a product like the OLCC liquor stores do. So given that, there should not be a requirement. There should be a need for any employer to make sure that their employees are educated about the product that they are dispensing, but as they are not allowed to serve. And I've heard no mention of anything that will give them or any other entity the right to actually serve the product, then there should be no license.
So the education should be the responsibility of the shop owner?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and that's another perspective we've heard. So we've got a yellow way in the back.
Right here.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Nathan. I'm sorry, she was ready.
This will be very short. I just wanted to clarify that licensure is not about making sure that bud tenders are educated about the product. My understanding of licensure is about ID checking and making sure that the medicine or the product is going to people who have a legal right to have it. If I go to my local brew pub and their servers really know a lot about local Willamette Valley hops, that's not because the OLCC taught them that. It's because the business owner taught them that. So let's just be clear what we're talking about.
So let's take this one, and then I know you have that follow-up question. Go ahead.
And a quick comment is that I believe it only is affecting the retail side. The growing side, the laboratory side, I do believe needs to be regulated in their employees and education at the highest degree.
Okay. All right. So Rob, you have a follow-up question.
So, the lady who stood up over here is correct related to ID and knowing if somebody's intoxicated because we don't want people serving intoxicated people. Those are the kinds of things we educate with related to alcohol. So I don't want to pretend otherwise. But what I do want to share with you, and we've shared this with every audience just about that we've been in front of, to see if it changes people's opinion. So today, OLCC has minor decoy operations around the state. We test about 15% of our licensees around the state. 19%, almost 20% of the people get served who are under the age of 21, even though they presented ID, if asked, which is a proper ID, it was under the age of 21. That has the red symbol on it. So does that change anybody's opinion related to whether people should be trained about ID checking and realizing people and signs of physical intoxication? So can we have a show of, with that in mind, how many people...
Any changes?
Related to those particular issues. And I think the other thing that people also try to educate people about is, we have people who try and go from location to location to location. With a license, we have the ability to stop them from going on to the next employer or the next business. So those are the reasons why we have some of those things in effect. So I'm just interested to see.
So
green...
So raise your hand, just raise yours if that changes your mind.
Can I ask a question first?
Is it a clarifying question?
Yeah, it's clarifying.
Okay.
Now, OLCC also does little sting things where they take and, go out and have people buy alcohol.
That's what he was saying.
We do.
Okay, I thought you just said it was the marijuana.
No, it's alcohol.
This is alcohol.
We don't have any control of the marijuana on the dispensary sector. Yeah.
So what he's saying...
In alcohol, we run minor decoy operations against 15% of our licensees. 19% of those people serve to people under the age of 21.
So the question is, knowing that people do, either out of ignorance or carelessness, serve to folks underage, should there be license? Before you do that, let's just get, he wants an answer to his
Great,
question.
I just want to see
So he wants to know
so
whether
green,
that...
now you think that they should have licenses, red, no, yellow, maybe.
Okay. Okay, so this gentleman, other folks haven't spoken yet. Go ahead.
So with the licensing regulated for the retailers, is that going to be more like a background check and limiting who can and can't work there? Because there's a lot of people in this community that have been arrested or have issues in the past because it is illegal. So is that going to stop a lot of people from working in that industry that was banned from before?
So good question. So the question is around whether folks who have a history with a marijuana crime at that point.
What I would tell you is in all licenses, I would tell you that in all licenses that we, not just this one, but any of the licenses of the 4 that are currently approved, it's contemplated that we're going to do some kind of background check. But I certainly feel like, and we have gotten some clear direction related to the fact that, individuals who may or may not have been involved in this business but may have a criminal history, we're certainly trying to figure out how we thread that needle. People refer to those people as the marijuana pioneers in some cases.
So someone who hasn't spoken.
Right here.
Okay.
If the concern is identification verification, why would it be any different from an OLCC card that a bar would have? Why would the training be any different than just the recognizing the differences in an identification? When you're trying to keep people from working in an industry, that's like firing a bartender and saying they can't go work at a bar down the road. I don't understand that.
Bartenders at OLCC, if they violate the rules and serve to somebody the age of 21, they lose their ability to serve alcohol because they have to, because the bar they have to be properly licensed. That's what we're talking about. It's the same type of thing in marijuana, whether you should or shouldn't have that. So that's what we're dealing with. Is people have to be diligent if we're trying to protect people under the age of 21. Okay.